Hi everybody, Dr. Chi here from Dr. Chi's Salon. So in this episode, I talk with one of my K-drama besties, Kat Turner, about her experiences being in South Korea in 2025 in April. So some of you guys might be familiar with the fact that back in 2024, at the end of the year, President Yoon had declared martial law, and there were mad protests in the streets of Seoul as well as other areas across South Korea. So she happened to be in South Korea in April 2025. So we were talking initially about the best K dramas of 2024 when we started transitioning to thinking about what the United States could learn from potential transitions to authoritarianism by political leaders. We recorded this podcast before the protests in Los Angeles and before the protests all across the country, the No Kings Day. So just keep that in mind as you listen to us. Keep in mind that this is just a conversation between friends and that neither of us claims to be an expert on South Korean politics. In fact, there's some great books at the end of the episode which you can use as a reference for finding out more about the Gwangju Uprisings, which are mentioned, as well as the politics and the fight for democracy in South Korea. Just to transition our listeners, we were talking about K-dramas and we started talking about the state of the world. And you expressed that you were in South Korea when a lot of things were happening. So maybe you could explain to us what we know there was an impeachment happening in South Korea. I feel like a lot of people might have known that there was all this political turmoil happening on that side of the world. Maybe you can give us just a little bit of background on what was happening and what the response was and why you think it's so important today.
So I had mentioned I was actually in Korea when the decision came down from the Constitutional Court to support the impeachment that the lawmakers had voted. So in Korea, back in December 2024, President Yoon decreed martial law, and it was illegal. There's a process for doing that. And given Korea's history, and anybody that watches K-dramas knows about the Gwangju Uprising and Snowdrop. There was a little bit of controversy with that particular storyline and character because one of the things they were saying was that that they were the character actually was a North Korean spy, but that is what they in Korea. That is what they said the college students and citizens were in Gwangju. They said, "Oh, they're North Korean spies," and they used that to justify killing thousands of people. That was in 1980, I believe. And so when this happened again, the same thing, they were using the same thing. Like a lot of the young military, we know because a lot of our favorite Korean actors and idols all have to serve in the military for a minimum 18 months. That's the rule. Any able-bodied Korean, and they were hearing that that's the reason why martial law was being declared and why they were being sent to go here, 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 and here is because of North Korean spies, which wasn't true, but literally within minutes of him announcing that he declared martial law, the Korean people were out in the streets, and they stayed in the streets basically. If they didn't stay there 24/7 after work, they came back and they were in the street night after night, and people were you know it was super cold, and so they people were donating hand warmers for them to have. But the first week that they were supposed to vote, the lawmakers were going to vote to impeach President Yoon. His party declined to show up. So
Mm-hmm.
without his party, there isn't even enough people to do a vote, right? So the people stayed in the streets until the second week when they did the vote, and then they did vote to impeach him. So I say the same thing in regards to what's happening with America
Wait. So
and
you're
what.
saying that his party, they did not show up. They're like, we're not going to vote. And so people in South Korea, regular everyday Joe Schmoes, went out into the streets
Mhm,
until the Congress
yeah,
people went to vote.
until the next week they could have another. It'd be another vote, and
Okay.
so yeah, and so on that, so they continued to protest, and in fact, they continued to protest until all the way through the Constitutional Court. giving out their decision. At the time, by that time, there were also Yoon supporters who were protesting, but I'm pretty sure that the people that wanted the impeachment upheld outnumbered the ones that wanted him to remain. But yeah, they stayed. So it took that happened in early April. Like I said, I was there when it happened. I was with a friend of mine. We were having coffee, and we literally turned it on, and we were listening to it as it happened. And he was translating for me what was being said. And that not only did they support the impeachment, they laid out a case by case thing why they supported whatever all the different things that Yoon did and how he did them and why they were wrong and why it was illegal and to support that. And so with what's going on here in America, I feel like we're very complacent. Everybody's mad, they don't like it, and they, take out their frustrations on social media. But what are we actually doing to actually enact change? And I saw President Obama, I think it was something he said not too long ago. He's like, there isn't someone to come save you, you know? And I would say the same thing. We are like frogs in a pot of water that's slowly coming to a boil, and we're going to be dead before we do anything because we're all just sitting waiting for someone else to do something. In some ways, myself included. I mean, I was out protesting, canvassing, phone banking 2016, 2020 when we needed to get Ossoff and Warnock in there in Georgia into the Senate. But I sat this one out. I voted. We saw the January 6th insurrection. We saw his behavior since then, even the 4 years since he's been out. Surely our country would not do that again. Surely now everybody has seen firsthand. And if I have to go out and convince people, if seeing it firsthand isn't enough, I just thought, really? So yeah, I didn't get out and canvass and that kind of thing. And I have not gone to a protest yet here in the US for it. But it's partly because I feel like we need something more. Like we need to shut the country down. We need to kind of go like do what we did in COVID. We need to stop working. We need to stop.
I absolutely agree.
Why did we pay taxes on April 15th? We don't even know where that money is going. Oh, how many million is going to his little birthday military parade? Yeah, they're cutting out their talk about waste and unnecessary spending. A military parade on his birthday? No, we don't need that. We
And
absolutely
that's
don't need
our
that.
hard-earned money. That's something that gets me. It's like I
Exactly.
pay taxes. I work hard for a living, just like millions of Americans do every day. And now the money that is taken from our paychecks is now gonna fund this lavish birthday party. Like, give me
After
a
we
break.
funded how many? After we funded his golf trips to Mar-a-Lago.
Right.
It's like,
He's
yeah,
probably there
no,
right now. He's probably right there right
yeah,
now.
exactly.
And I love your point that like the protests are not enough. That it's got to be, and like it can't just be protests here and there. Like I've seen people protesting like a month in advance. Like, okay, on April 5th, we're gonna all protest. Like, that's not enough. I agree with you that when I saw what was happening in South Korea on the news and how they're like, oh, we are not gonna allow this guy to turn our country into to take away our democracy. And people are like out in the streets shutting down the country, shutting down Seoul. And I was like, that's what we should be doing. But I'm looking around, I'm like, I don't see that happening because I don't think that a planned protest from 3 weeks, 3 weeks later is going to save us. But I think it's so important to know that there is no superhero, there is no Superman. A lot of people have been critiquing our Congress people, saying, "Hey, Congressperson, what are you doing? Congressperson, what are you doing?" Oh, I've heard people say, "Where's Obama?" It's like there's no magic bullet. There's no
Mm-mm.
magic person who's going to wave their wand and everything will be okay. It has to
The
be us.
magic
And I'm
the
like,
magic bullet is us. The
right.
magic bullet
Yeah,
is we the people. And even if we don't get out in the streets, imagine if we all stopped going to work.
absolutely. We can't be
Like,
generating money for people
yeah,
who are just gonna go and throw it away because they feel like going golfing one day. Like that's my earned
right.
money, hard-earned money. And all these businesses and
Imagine
corporations
if
are supporting him, the Twitters, the Instagrams, the X, what have you, they're all behind this, and we're just giving them our labor
right,
so they can get richer. I'm like, oh, we shouldn't be
right.
working. We
And
shouldn't be
even
working.
imagine if the companies stopped turning they can still take our tax money out of paychecks, but imagine if they stopped turning that over to the IRS until He has done illegal things. He is defying Supreme Court decisions. He's
He's got
done so many illegal things since he's been in office. So there is no reason why we couldn't do this, but we have to speak louder. We don't have to be violent. I am not for violence, but our money speaks. I mean, look at what's happened to Target. Our money
right.
speaks. If
Hmm.
we stopped working, if the taxes stopped being paid, you know,
Then
and
it
then in
wouldn't just be
combination,
our Congress people. Then it would be like these
right,
business owners, these capitalists are going to be
right,
like, "Yo, we have to wake up too. We can't let this continue because it's not.
right,
It's not just like, individual people. It's like the masses of Americans, the millions of us. We are the largest consumer group on the planet. Our money, our
right.
dollars speak, and also
Yep,
we have been producing so much. We work so hard. Americans, every year that we've been working for the last 20, 30 years, it's just more and more hours accumulating. We used to have 1 hour lunch breaks that were paid. Then we went to 1 hour lunch breaks that were not paid. Then we went to half an hour lunch breaks, right? That are paid sometimes, right? So a lot of people don't get work breaks anymore. And so we're producing, 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 working, working, working. For what? For this guy to go golfing? F that. Nah.
right.
We need a new
And
president.
to turn our country into authoritarian leadership instead of
Yeah.
a democracy. Like, no, that's not
No.
okay. He's done enough illegal things, and until we speak up and actually do something about it, I mean, actually do something about
Like
it.
getting off of
Everybody's
social
afraid to,
media. Social media is great. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I'm on it. But it's not what's going to change the world. It's not, we
no,
have to
it's
be out
not.
doing things. We have to be
Right,
forming groups with other people, talking to our neighbors, creating reading clubs to strategize about the best ways to end authoritarianism because that is what we're
right.
seeing now.
Our elected officials are, quote, afraid because, first of all, why do you want to be an elected official if you can't actually do anything? So I'm going to tell our elected officials, put it on the line. Put it on the line, because why do you want to even be in that job if you can't do anything anyway? But guess what? If we go to the streets, then our elected officials have to go the way we want it, because then we're
Absolutely.
not going to elect your ass back into office if you don't actually do something.
Yeah.
So yeah, they need our support as well. But I also would like to have them say, we need you in the streets. We need you guys to do this. Is what we need from you. And sitting in our homes and posting on Instagram threads and you know whatever is not gonna
TikTok.
it's not gonna
It's not
accomplish it.
changing things. Yeah,
No.
yeah, you're absolutely right. And like,
And I
and
think,
I was watching a Korean drama. So I always bring back to Korean dramas where
yeah,
this is exactly what happened. Where there's this a school. I can't remember the name of the drama right now. It escapes me. But there was this woman who was the head, the owner essentially of a elite private school, doing all sorts of illegal activities, including murder. And she's like, "Oh, the students, what are they gonna do? They'll just post about it on social media, and that'll be the end of it. Like nothing's gonna change, right?" That literally said that to the point that I recorded it. She's like, "Oh yeah, they'll just let us some seen on social media, and things will continue as they are." She just talked to me about how we are living our lives in the United States. So it's not enough. Raising awareness is only the first step. The second step is action. You got to get together
right,
with people who are like-minded and engage in some sort of action. Maybe that action is being out in the streets. Maybe that action is organizing people not to work, right? On select days, on all days, what have you. You guys figure that out. Maybe it is educating people in your community, talking to people face to face and saying, yo, this is what's going on right now, and figuring out what you're going to do about it. Because sitting here being angry or upset is not going to help us. We're just, like you said, we're
no.
going to be a bunch of frogs in a pot of water that was cold at first, and then it's lukewarm, and then it gets warm. And before we know it, it'll be a boiling pot, and we're all
My only brother that I know of that's not a Trumper, spends a lot of time in Germany, and he said, if people cannot recognize that we've seen this before, Hitler was also elected. Hitler was
absolutely.
elected. And we look back to that time and we all say, well, hindsight's 2020. I wouldn't do that. But they are.
We're
But
doing
people
it.
are doing
We're
that.
doing it
Yes,
right
they
now.
are. We're doing it right now. And this is like, and I will also say my brother just got back from Germany and the rest of the world is like, what are you guys doing? what are you doing, and why aren't you all doing more? The rest of the world does wonder why we, the American people, aren't actually doing something, and we're waiting for someone to come save us.
I know what I'm doing. I'm watching K dramas and I am working hard, but also I feel like Americans are exhausted. Like we work 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. It's like we are worked to death in this country to the point that we don't even have time to breathe and to think.
Let's stop working, because guess what? In this country, Dr. Chi, money speaks. That's why they're able to do what they do, because they've got all the tech bros, all the billionaire tech bros have joined together, and the heads of these corporations that we are like watching, one by one, join up forces with him. It's because of money. Well, guess what? We hold the pocketbook. We're without our money, they can't do anything. If we stopped working, oh, then we'll
They
have
can't
plenty of
eat.
time.
and
Yeah,
they can't eat. They
nope,
will have like no nice cooks to come to their house and make their particular meals for them.
exactly,
If we don't work,
exactly.
they won't be able to
But
get mani pedis if we don't work. They're not going to be able to like take their kids to school to learn if we don't work because the teachers aren't going to be there. Like we forget
no,
that these tech bros are people. They are people just
yeah,
like
you
everybody
start
else.
with it. You got Harvard, who said, no, we're not doing it. They're only one. And then you've got a lot of the colleges joining together in protection, right? That they are doing things to join together and try and stand against him. But but to me, literally, if the teachers in the public schools, if you all join together, there's nothing they can do. What are they going to do to you if you all join together? If there's 10 teachers that don't join, they can't open the schools,
You're
because
right.
not only are the kids not learning, guess what? They're home, and now mom and dad can't go to work either because their kids are home. So like, everybody stop working until we force an impeachment. The biggest point, I think the biggest point that we have to keep in mind regarding what's going on is that money is power. That's why they have power over us. But the people combined, we the people, if we would combine our resources, meaning if we would stop working, that's money. I mean, when you look at what has happened with Target and the boycott going against them, that you can literally shut a company down if you stop spending and you stop buying from them. I'm not saying they're shutting down, but I'm just saying it has definitely changed
We
their
could do
bottom.
it.
It has changed their bottom line. And if we stopped working, and if you start with a group like the teachers, because of the Department of Education, that has a domino effect, because the kids are home and then the parents can't work because someone has to be home to take care of the kids.
But also thinking about places like Trump Towers, right? Like, if people decided, Americans are like, you know what? I am not going to stay at a Trump Tower hotel. We know that Trump owns none of those hotels, right? He doesn't own a single Trump hotel. He leases his name. But if people decided we are not going to stay at this Trump Tower, guess what's going to happen? Like the owners of those hotels are not going to be happy, and they are also going to get on board for we got to get this guy out of office, right? We have
Right.
power as people, whether in terms of our dollars, the hotels we stay at, the places that we work, right? Whether we decide to work or not, what we where we decide to purchase, where we spend our money, all of those things matter. And what also matters is us being in the streets and protesting.
Right. Peacefully protesting. Because guess what? If we're not working, we can then be in the streets and we can be peacefully protesting. Our elected officials are afraid of not getting reelected because he's going to put money against the candidate running against them. But guess what? You're not going to get reelected because we're not going to reelect you. How about that?
But also, guess what? In an authoritarian state, there are no elections, right? People forget that. Like, oh, people are waiting. Like, oh, in another year we'll be able to. There might not be elections. When you are an authoritarian leader, when you're a dictator, when you're trying to get rid of democracy, you get rid of elections. That is his goal, right? So we have to work today and make sure that this guy gets. He got to get. Got to get.
Right. And the thing of it is I know that I never read Project 2025. I have heard that they're ahead of track as far as what the things that they've been wanting to accomplish. But conspiracy theories aside, you said you're very tired, you're exhausted. I told you I am as well. I'm not protesting, I'm not canvassing. We are, but that's planned. All these things and all this chaos is planned. And the other day, it's funny, I was out at the airport, and I have an app that gives you updates for all the flights coming in, right? You can check any flight update.
Mhm.
And I kept getting these, I have the free version. So I kept getting these ads, and I kept getting these ads for become an airline pilot, become an airline pilot. I'm like, what the heck? I go, it's not safe to fly planes. I don't want to fly anymore. I don't know if that's true, but we do know that we know that in New Jersey, the air traffic controllers walked off the job, right? And the other night there were like 5 on when there should have been like 30 on or something like that. But guess what? Even we see all the people, how many countries have said it's not safe to travel to the US, right? When I went to Korea, I was nervous to come back in. I'm like, am I going to have issues because I'm Asian? I am not white, right? Am I going to have issues trying to get back in the country? And also, I'm a naturalized citizen because I'm an adoptee. So, am I going to have issues? I did not have any issues, but I was worried about that. And we've already seen them. We've already seen them detain people with legitimate visas. People have been hired to work here, that they've been, they're not just coming to visit. We've seen them pull students off the street. We've seen it even happen to white people, right? But as scary as that all is, and as much as we're all like, just, oh my gosh, what are they doing? You know what I think the ultimate end game for that is? You take all those things into combination to isolate us, because that's another
Absolutely.
point of authoritarianism. Because guess what? If we're afraid to leave because we aren't going to get back in, if we're afraid to fly because we think the plane's going to crash because there's not enough air traffic controllers on, if airline pilots are quitting, I don't know if they are, but I was just so surprised to see so many ads saying, become an airline pilot, become an airline pilot. I've never had that ad pop up again. That leads me to believe, why all of a sudden do we need airline pilots? So
I
if
mean, it's
we do
about
get to the
creating
point,
fear.
right, it's about creating fear, and people are afraid to come in because of what they're doing. They're literally treating legitimate people coming into this country as prisoners. That's creating fear, and ultimately, what will that do? We will become isolated in this country, to the point where if we don't have air traffic controllers and we don't have pilots, we won't be able to get out.
But this is exactly why I think that our bodies on the line are important, that we can't
It
allow
is,
ICE to just take people, right? We have to
right.
physically stop ICE from taking people and putting them in these gulags in God knows what country in Libya. Thanks so much for chatting with me about these issues, because I've been wanting to talk to somebody who cares about these issues and has thought about deeply about them, and is not just about tweeting or chatting about it, but actually calling people to action. So I salute you. Thank you so
All
much for
right.
joining me. Kat. You have a
Thank
good
you,
one.
Dr. G.
Bye. Is it Anyang? You also say Anyang for goodbye?
Yeah, you can say annyeong for goodbye as well.
Aloha.
Or you can
Annyeong.
just go, nah,
Bye bye.
bye.
So this is just a conversation among friends. If you want to know more about the Gwangju Uprising, there's this book by Che Jong-won called The Gwangju Uprising, the pivotal democratic movement that changed the history of modern Korea. So this is a book that you can read to get more information, because we're not going to believe everything that people tell us on the internet in 2025. Then there's this book called Gwangju Uprising, not to be confused with The Gwangju Uprising. This one is subtitled The Rebellion for Democracy in South Korea, and it's got three different authors called Hwang Seok-kyung, Lee Jae-wi, Jong Young-ko, and it says it's a winner of an English Pen Award. So between these two books, check them out, learn something. Because in 2025, we're not going to read blog posts and pretend like they're actual articles that have been well researched. We're not going to just trust what people tell us in podcasts or on the internet. We're going to read actual books. And if you come across an article that you find interesting, but you hit that paywall, let me know. I might be able to hook you up, because I've got means, I got ways. Thank you for listening to Dr. G's Salon. I'll talk to you next time.